I got my notes, but I don't know. You know how that shit happens. You might fuck up. But so Kawhi Leonard is probably making an All NBA first team this year. 28 points per game on a career best 63% true shooting, right? He was nearing 50, 40, 90 splits, 2 steals a game. And by the numbers, this is supposed to be the best version of Kawhi that we've seen in a regular season, right? But I don't think he's gotten better. Not so much better. I don't think that in the time that Kawhi Leonard has been playing, he's been what? Like outside an all-pro team. I think that a lot of that requires just being able to play the game, and we've seen a bunch of whole injury stuff, but the skill set's been there. I don't think he's gotten so much better. I think he's just doing a lot more. And I think that difference matters a lot because when you look at how a lot of our elite scorers and how they work across the NBA, the pattern is usually the same, right? Their efficiency stays about the same because that's their player, that's their character. And the only thing that really changes is how many shots that they take. So Kawhi's season this year is real, sure, but the reason it's real has less to do with some sort of off-season jump that he's on some Aaron Gordon shit where he had added a gym to his play. So no, I'm just shooting the hell out of this. And I think it's more so that he's been able to do this. He just wasn't showing it to you between October and April. Well, I mean, it's he's been turning it up even around there. But yeah, you get the idea. So the simple version of just Kawhi just shoots more. I think that doesn't really hold up on its own as a concept, but his field goal attempts just nearly doubled from his last year from as a Spur to now because, you know, he was at 10 points per game and then it got up to 19. His usage rate also jumped up from 17% to 33%. So unlike a whole bunch of other players where their efficiency falls apart when their volume goes up, Kawhi's true shooting percentage actually came up because he went from 60% true shooting to 63. And I think the 1920 season was a great example, like volume without the whole efficiency stuff, because he had his most usage there, but his true shooting went down to like 58.9%, and his effective field goal percentage dropped to 52%. So he was forcing more. He was just doing more. But from 2020, 21 season, something just changed overall because, you know, we're on here on the Clippers, and over 4 of these seasons, he kept about 62%, 62.2 and 62.6 true shooting percent while taking like all-star caliber shot volume. So his field goal attempts went from 1.25 in his career to 1.45 this season. And I think his 3-point shooting is probably the best example of just in general, because I'm attributing it to, yes, he is shooting, but there is the ability to hold it, right? Because in the Spurs year, in the Toronto run, he was around 37%, 38% from the three on a decent amount of attempts. Then from 2020-21 to 2024-25, he shot 39%, 41%, 41%, and no, it's 39.8, 41.6, 41.7, and 41.1. So 4 straight seasons of above 39% on 5+ attempts per game. So that's he's opening up more. And this season, he pushed the volume up to 6.9 3-point attempts per game. So that's like basically 7 3-point pointers attempted, and 35% of all of his shots, up from 29%. And his percentage dipped to about 38%. That small dip, though, with more volume is going to be expected because obviously, you know, if you're going to be attempting more shots, unless you're a super duper trooper efficient man, and this is already Kawhi Leonard, like it's going to drop. And his career playoff 3-point percentage of 39.9 actually beats the whole regular season stuff. So he's been a shooter, but here's what makes the argument for me in terms of the regular season numbers compared to his playoff numbers. That's the biggest thing to focus on. So in 16-17, he added 2.2 points per game in the playoffs while his true shooting jumped to about 67.4%. And he did it on fewer field goal attempts. So in 2021, he added another 5 points per game in the postseason, and his true shooting went from 62.2 to 67.9. That's crazy. Like he's the amount of turning it up is wild. And in his 2019 championship run, 30 points per game, 61.8 true shooting across 24 games. That's still one of the best playoff performances, extended playoff performances, because it's like 20, 24 games. That's one of the best ones in history. I think that with the whole 25-26 season of 28.3 points at 63% true shooting matches career playoff averages. And this is a version of Kawhi that used to only show up in May and June and now is showing up in general. When whether that's him, changing his mindset, managing his health better, or just not having someone like Harden anymore, the numbers are just telling a story that I kind of always thought was the case. And this is me just talking about the stats of it all. I think in general, if you look at his game, Kawhi has always been an extremely solid player. I think that the conversation surrounding him had always been in his health. And genuinely speaking, that's like a very boring conversation because a lot of the time it's like, okay, so we've seen this, but can he be healthy for this? Can he be healthy for that? Can he be healthy for this? It's like, genuinely speaking, I think he's had great teams, obviously. But I think if we consider a player of his caliber and how well other teams have built around their star players, I think that Kawhi Leonard has always had the ability to play the way that he's been playing. It just really depends on what's surrounding him. And honestly speaking, that 1-2 punch of Harden and him was amazing. And we had Zubats also. And that was just a solid core for the Clippers. And yeah, it got broken up. But honestly speaking, it was... I would have loved to see more of that. I just think that the team in general was too old. And if we had seen something better, I don't think Kawhi requires a team as deep as the 2019 Raptors. But if you had something, if you had a bench and cast the caliber of a 5 seed and above and play and still have Kawhi in there, because he did have Harden, he did have Zubats, and those are a great two sets of characters. But your team was freaking, you had Bradley Beal, bro. Like, what were y'all really gonna do with that? I'm being so for real. Chris Dunn's cool. And Lopez has been doing his job as of recent. He wasn't being able to play before. I don't know what the heck Ty Lue is running over there, but it's just always stuff that's like not Kawhi that we always consider about these conversations. And I think that there are other characters, other players that have similar problems with this dialogue and, injury or not. Is he going to be healthy? Is he not? That's always going to happen with someone like Embiid, for example, even if you do see a lot of stuff where they do show up. And hell, even the areas where they don't show up, other stars have had points where they're allowed to not show up as hard and their team takes care of the dirty work. I think that an expectation of putting it 100% on just Kawhi as a star, and even putting it both on Kawhi and Harden and Zubac, just putting it on 3 players, even though you're coming through with like 15, but you get the idea. Now, when we're talking about evaluating players, a lot of the time we don't really look at what they could do. We look at what they're actively doing. And I do think that's fair. There are a lot of players where you want to see them do what you've already watched them do and not some sort of version of what they're not being able to get going and all that. You can't give someone credit for production that they haven't shown you. I understand that. But when someone's playoff numbers consistently jump more points, same or better efficiency, whatever, you have to ask whether the regular season version was a choice and not a ceiling. Because Kawhi's track record in general in the playoffs just makes it like it's extremely hard to ignore. I think that he wasn't really struggling to score 25 in the regular season and just figuring it out in April, like, oh man, like this is just, it's not something like there's a button that clicks on. I think he was just comfortable at the points that he had and then decides to up it when the games matter more. As for why he's doing that, why is he holding back? Probably not on purpose, but the priority in the regular season for most stars is just winning games, staying healthy, and looking right for the next contract or the next big series or whatever. So scoring 28 in a season instead of 24 doesn't always help with that if the team is winning anyways, because we can look to GOAT talk. We can talk about LeBron being like a clear example about this because elite scorers in general can turn up their volume without their efficiency completely falling apart. I think that LeBron had a range of 55 to 65 across 22 seasons, while his field goal attempts went from 16 to 23. And that's like a 42% swing in shot volume, but with barely any movement on how well he converted. It's really up to him and the defenses, because his highest scoring seasons were his highest volume seasons and his most efficient seasons, like the Miami year, 2012 to 14, where they're the ones where he took the fewest shots of any prime year. So when you group up his seasons by shot volume, then you just have a pretty obvious pattern, because at 21 plus field goal attempts, he was averaging 30 points at 58% true shooting, 58.5. So you can round it up to 59 if you want to. And at 17 to 18 attempts, he averaged 26 at 61%. The swing of about like 8 points between low volume and high volume seasons all comes entirely down to the shot attempts. His low volume seasons were actually more efficient by about 2.5 percentage points. So if LeBron had kept around 21 field goal attempts per game during the Miami years and accepted that there's going to be a dip in efficiency, he could have averaged 30 plus in 7 to 9 seasons instead of just like 3. And he chose team play and efficiency over a lot of these, like, like stuff like scoring titles and all that. And I think that also his higher percentage probably would have taken down his assists too. And that's just a decision he's making because he knows winning basketball at that point. And in 2021-22, at the age of 37, he scored 30 points per game at 61% true shooting by just taking 21.8 shots. And nothing changed about his skill in terms of, did he forget anything? Did he not? No, it's not like that. Obviously he got older, so it's not going to be as explosive, but he just decided to shoot more. And you can move on from LeBron to KD, and at 37, he's got 26 points per game. I'm rounding up, it's 25.9. And that looks like a step down from his MVP season where he was scoring 32 in the season, right? I don't think that Kevin Durant has just become so much of a worse shooter like that. His true shooting has hovered between 63 and 64 for the past 3 seasons. And that's above his OKC prime average and basically the same as Golden State. So his EFG percentage of 58.6 to 59.8 in recent years beats his OKC and Warriors numbers. 3-point shooting has hit a career stretch of 41.1 to 43% over the past 3 seasons compared to 35 and 39 during OKC. And see, the scoring gap a lot of time in this case is based on free throw attempts, because during his MVP season, KD averaged 9.9 free throw attempts per game. And this season it's at 5.9. About 4 fewer free throws at about 88% conversion. That's about 3.5 points per game lost on this scoring. If you add in 3 fewer field goal attempts per game, I think that just covers the entire math of it all, because on a shot per basis, he converts this 1.46 points per field goal attempts, and that's the same as Golden State peak. So he didn't really decline. That's just his volume being turned down. And I think that we have to look at this for so many players where it's okay, is this person getting older? So does that mean they're probably not going to be finishing as much? Probably. So if they're not finishing as much and they're not getting fouled as much, the free throws will go down. That's going to affect their point per game average in the season. And in general, let's say that they're scared to do post-ups nowadays. That's where you're able to say this person's better, and this version of this person's better because he wasn't scared to post up back then because he wasn't injured, at this point. He hasn't been injured 2 times or whatever the fuck. But do we really think that a basketball player stops being good so fast? From season to season, postseason to the next season? A lot of the time, what we're actually seeing is how a player is fitting with his team and how the other teams are just choosing to play them. So when KD went from OKC to Golden State, his volume dropped because he was sharing with Curry and Clay, and his efficiency went up. And when he left, his volume adjusted again based on the roster around him, but his skill was still there. Even if there's some stuff being limited, obviously, for physically speaking, post-injury and all that. Skill is there, though. The situation is just the one that changed it all. So the thing that connects KD, the thing that connects LeBron, the thing that connects Kawhi, and all these other elite scorers that have probably aged up and all that. I think a lot of the elite scorer nowadays, the below that, they're doing well because of they're younger, like Shea. But scoring output is mostly about how many shots they take and how many free throws that they can get. Kawhi's 25-26 season, this is real, but it's real as in the volume has increased and he's going to have more usage and almost 7 3-point attempts per game. And that's going to most likely explain the huge jump in his stuff. And his career best true shooting alongside the 4 years of 41+% 3-point accuracy, that's the actual improvement that we're seeing because he's opening himself up to this ability. No pause. He's opening himself up to this ability, this avenue where he's able to just score more. But the bigger point is that Kawhi is who he always was. His playoff career had showed us that ceiling. What changed this season isn't really ability at all. It's just intent. He's choosing to play a lot more power, a lot more urgency in this regular season because, you know, if they really don't make it to the playoffs, then all this was for naught. And his time in LA had just been terroristic, for lack of a better term. And LeBron had made the opposite choice for his career. You know, he chose a lot more efficiency and team structure compared to just stat padding, which is crazy because I know like stat padding, it comes with his name. But, you know, it would look a lot better for his legacy if he averaged 30 a lot and he averaged about 1 or 2 less assists, maybe. Not even like 1 or 2 less assists, but just 1 assist at least. And you have with KD, it looks like he's just declined overall in terms of like if you're only looking at, but you're seeing that he's converting shots at the same rate that he's been at his best years and his most recent ones. He's just taking fewer shots. He's just converting better with the ones that he's taking for himself. So for all of these, and you can add in a bunch of other people who, for example, are still consistent with their playoff performances. They just have ups and downs when it comes to performance of the regular season. Their talent was always there. The question wasn't really on never could they. It was, you know, would they? I also do think that this video does call for someone like Jimmy Butler entirely about the whole what's the value of the regular season versus the postseason. And he is an enormous playoff riser, but I just don't think that that's the video for this because that'll take up like another 15 something minutes. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully, thank you all for watching, hearing me talk about a whole bunch of numbers. It sounds like bullshit, but if I was to give you more stuff about like what, like his pull-ups and all that, that still just counts as more stats. So I feel like just keeping it at EFG, true shooting, and just field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, just doing it with that was the easiest case. But I don't know, like we'll see another one. I want to do a less stat driven video. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.